Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I'm here today with Thom King. Thom King, part CEO, part personal development work, and part biohacker info geek, is a self-confessed self-entrepreneur. While his favorite book list contains many success-oriented and personal development classics, the traditional definition of achieving success, aka make a lot of money, is not what inspires or motivates King. He follows more of a you aren't doing well unless you're also doing some good line of thinking, which I also subscribe to. King's company has been built around the simple principle of do the right thing. And boy, could we use a lot more of that in the world, right? In 1999, Thom's personal passion for food and his concern over the explosion of metabolic disease led him to found, and I don't think I'm saying this right, Stevia. I don't know. I have no idea. I want to say stevia. I know you're all trying to help me there, but it's spelled Steviva. Stevia. That sounds better. Brands. You can all correct me later if I did not say that right. Now known as Icon Foods, with a mission to stem the tide of diabetes by providing consumers healthy alternatives to sugar. In recent years, his passion for food and optimal health have intersected with his embrace of a ketogenic, low carb, high fat diet. Thom's latest project is a line of ketogenic condiments intended to help many people successfully adopt a healthier lifestyle. Today, we talked about fasting, the different types of fasting, why it's good for you, how to go about it. We talked about ketogenesis, how to get into ketogenesis, how to know if you're in ketogenesis, and how to know if you're out of ketogenesis, ways to test it more accurately. We also talked about the role of ketogenesis in possibly reversing diabetes. We talked also in length about why ketogenesis works, why it's good for you, how it can reverse, diabetes, but basically metabolic syndrome. And we went into talking a lot about donating blood, why or why not, why you might want to do it, and how it chelates iron out of the body if you have excess. And so many good tips today. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this episode. I know ketogenesis has been all the buzz. So we're getting the real deal from Gone Keto. So without further ado, let's dive into this episode. I am so excited to welcome Thom King to the Sisterhood of Sweat today.
Well, thank you, Linda. I appreciate you inviting me on the Sisterhood of Sweat. And yeah, I can't wait to see what questions you throw at me.
I mean, I feel like I should have called mine Girls Gone Wild and you're like Guy Gone Keto. But I love the title Guy Gone Keto. That's so
Wow.
perfect and catchy. How did you
Thank
come
you.
up with that?
I just came up with it. It was one of those things that it's like, I think my sister started, you know, uh, kidding around with me about it. Like, you're not really the guy gone keto. You're more of the guy gone off the wagon. And so, I mean, you know how family is, but I stuck with the guy gone
Oh,
keto thing because it made
yes, I
sense
do.
for me. Um, and then the publisher, of my book was giving me a lot of pushback. Like, hey, this is, you should consider changing the title to something else. Like, and I'm like, no, no, let's just keep it the same. And so I think that they were afraid of alienating uh, females, from the book and
Like, well,
stuff.
like you would think with Sisterhood of Sweat, I would alienate
Yeah.
males, but I have tons of male listeners.
Yeah. And I have tons of female customers. So it's like, you just got to stick with what makes sense for you.
Many guys have tried to come into the sisterhood. I have a gym. They want to know what's going on in there.
Good.
But I
Sweat.
think, yeah, lots of it.
Yeah. Good.
Oh my goodness. But I love the title. And I just want to know, how in the world did you find yourself getting into the world of keto, and
Mm.
why?
That's an excellent question. So I think if I go back to sort of the genesis of that book, I mean, it's sort of like all, the perfect storm, or all worlds colliding, because my main job is the chief food scientist and CEO of an ingredient company, and so the ingredients that we supply are natural sweeteners. So most of the companies that we were supplying ingredients to were in the low carb, no added sugar, keto space. um, but 5 years ago, while I was, in that space, I was not following it. Like, I was carrying an extra 35 pounds. My blood pressure was super high. And I was just like,
You're like not a
few,
good representation of it.
no, I felt like an imposter. And so it really hit me when I was in Vegas for a trade show, and I had one of our vendors like take me out to dinner, and I overdid it. Like, I had cake, and I had wine, and I had a steak and potato and everything else, and I was just like, it was just gluttony. And I went back up to my room that I was staying in, and it just, Vegas is Vegas. Like, the room when I got in there smelled like, you know, broken dreams and regret. And I'm like, whoa.
Oh,
So it kind of set the
not a
stage.
good smell.
It wasn't. I'm like, oh, this is what it's come down to. So I just looked in the mirror, and I didn't like what was looking back at me. I mean, definitely felt like an imposter. I felt like, what am I doing in this industry if I'm not following it? And at that point, something just clicked in me. It was sort of like the pleasure that I was deriving from eating pizza and drinking beer and eating donuts and stuff like that. Like, the pleasure of that had been eclipsed by the pain of actually looking at myself in the mirror. Like, and I'm 6'2", so carrying an extra 35 pounds really, I mean, is easy to cover up. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it was the underlying health issues that I had going on, like, terrible heartburn, high blood pressure, at afternoon crash, like at 2 p.m. It's just like, I just have to have a nap. And it was those things. And so I I've always been a person who's used journaling. Like, journaling it's my constant, it's what I do every single day. And so I started journaling about my process. Like, how am I going to, break this habit of eating garbage and, bring on new habits. And after a year of like note taking, data collection, I had a book, and it didn't take very long to edit it. And it was the first book I wrote, and it, it was number one on Amazon for, I think, I don't know, a day. So, which I couldn't even believe it was on Amazon. And I'm like, okay, great. This is cool. Um, but that whole journey really helped me take a good look at myself, and it also helped me understand others, like other people are that, could be in that situation, and it really helped me develop compassion towards people that, are battling weight or battling health issues, by being compassionate and kind to myself.
A lot of times I feel like it's because what you were feeling with the maybe inauthenticity, because you knew that you're displaying one thing but you're being another, is we're not being real and true with ourselves. And you kind of had that come to Jesus moment, that basically where you're like, okay, I'm hitting a wall here. I got to go one way or another, but I can't keep doing this. And what did that transformation look like? Like, how did you change your habits
Mm.
to get to a better place of health?
Um, I set an intention, so I set intentions and, and really sort of wrote down my goals, like what I wanted my outcome to be. Um, and from my perspective, it's like writing down your goals is essential. Like it's a non-negotiable. Like if you're not writing your goals down, then they're only good intentions. And so, you know, from my perspective, I set the intention, created the outcome, and then built around it like an action plan, like massive action plan. Step A to step B to step C to step D, E, so on and so forth. And then I revisited that action plan, like once a week. I would say the biggest thing that helped me though is letting go of expectations, right? I mean, it's, because expectations will always exceed reality, right? Like at the end of the week, I expect to be 5 pounds heavier. Well, if you're not 5 pounds or 5 pounds lighter, if you're not 5 pounds lighter, then it starts to weigh on you, and then that's when people start giving up. But if you fall in love with process, right?
Right.
You fall in love with your
Love
action
that.
plan, and you just do your action plan, and then see where the data takes you. And if the data takes you to a place that you're not happy with, change your action plan. That's all it is. It's like, and letting go of your expectations and your emotional attachment to outcome, and just falling in love with taking action, I think can it got me to where I wanted to go. And I think that people that have read the book and people I've uh, talked to, at trade shows when trade shows were going on, um, really that helped them, like putting together an action plan, letting go of the expectation, and falling in love with process.
I love that so much. Those are
Thank
really
you.
good steps. And I think almost like, first of all, setting the goal. I feel like the goal lights your way, but I love the unhooking yourself from expectations,
Mm,
because a lot of times our expectations that we're setting, maybe they're not, and they're unrealistic, or they're not, you're minimizing the other good things that you might be seeing,
mm,
because you're like, I want to drop 10 pounds this week, and you're hooking it to a number,
mm,
instead of like what you did with hooking it to the process of showing up every day. And
mm.
how committed were you? Because I think commitment and consistency are the key. And I wanted to say king, like your
Do it.
last name,
Yes.
because I feel like consistency and commitment are king.
uh I agree. And I mean the commitment to engaging in a process to get to your desired outcome, the commitment is 100%. And that's where discipline comes in. And, I don't know if you follow Jocko Willink at all, but he wrote a book called Discipline Equals Freedom. And it's a really super simple read, but it really gets down to the core of you have to commit like your life depends on it. And I think that, it's amazing what human beings can achieve, right? I
Yeah.
mean, when they put their mind to it, like doing a 5-day fast, like if you bring that up to anybody, you know,
Be like,
they're like,
gun
what?
to the
It's like,
hand.
no, no, I'm not doing
Five.
it. It's like, yeah, it's like
Take five.
even like a 2-day or a 3-day fast. It's like, well, I don't even understand that. But the commitment, like when you do fast, or when you make that commitment and you have the discipline to follow through, it's so empowering. And even like with fasting, like even if you just do like say a 48-hour fast, you discover so much. You discover so much about yourself, because you'll see how many times you're actually reaching for food, right? And you're not hungry, and you start thinking about it. And, it really helps dissect your relationship um, with food. And, are you, eating to to sustain yourself, or are you eating to placate whatever voids you're trying to fill? But I mean, that's the commitment. If you go 48 hours, or better yet, if you go 5 days without food, you're going to understand your commitment, and that takes discipline.
It's so true. I think like every time I would approach a fast when I first kind of started, it would be because I own a gym and I'm,
Mm-hmm.
teaching classes and training, and you would feel like, oh, I don't know, am I going to be able to fast while I'm doing all this? But then it would be like, wow, 2 days go, and then I'm like on day 3, and I'm like, it's like this euphoric feeling that comes
Mm-hmm.
over you. First of all, you're detoxing and cleaning out the body, but
Yeah.
also you're kind of giving your body a rest so it can do all of that. And then I feel like you just kind of get more in touch with yourself, mind, body, spirit,
Oh.
because of this whole fasting process. And at the end, you realize that food doesn't rule you. Like, food is fuel.
Mm-hmm.
You're in charge. And I feel like
Yeah.
it's a very freeing type of experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is for me. Like I think that fasting is one of the most enriching experiences that a person can gift to themselves. And coupled with all of the things that it does for the body, like, by day 2 or day 3, you're definitely in autophagy, and you're losing all the weak dead cells out of your system. So it's a reset. It gives your body a break from having to digest a bunch of stuff. Um, and you do definitely get into your own head. Like, the first fast that I did was a black fast, um, which you can't have any contact with water whatsoever. And so that one was a fairly short one. It was a 48-hour fast. It was a
I was going to
48
say,
hour
I don't know. I've not done that one.
it's a 48 hour fast
Sounds
that you have
hard.
nothing. Like, you can't even brush your teeth. You can't have any contact with water.
Oh my goodness. Now, what is the purpose of that?
It's just another form of like cleansing, because it gives your kidneys a break. It gives, but I would say that more than the cleansing part of it was I would say the spiritual part of it.
Uh-huh.
You really connected with yourself, and you really got a
You
good
got
look at,
gritty with it.
yeah, you really get a good look at what's going on inside of your head, and helps you figure things out. And then when you're on the other side of it, it is so empowering, because you have taken control over your indulgences, and you've mastered them. And yeah, nothing is more empowering than being able to overcome some of the things that you feel like hold you back.
I've been thinking about a social media fast.
Uh, yes, that so I agree, and I think that is a healthy fast for just about everybody.
I thought, what would it be like to just get off all your devices for a week?
It would be
Crazy.
amazing,
Yeah, I think it
but
would.
like I've gone 2 days without my phone, um, and it really gave me an opportunity to see how much of a vice my phone is,
I know.
because even
I'm
if you're like,
addicted to it, I think.
well, in different ways too. Like, you're addicted to it to be like, hey, what's going on in the world? What am I
Yeah.
missing?
Yeah, like
What's
information,
burning down? And
entertainment,
yeah, it's like, what kind of
dopamine.
scandal, and who likes me? That's part of it, but also for me, it's like a source of information.
Yeah.
Like when you're in a discussion, it's like, oh wait, let me wiki that.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, right.
so you're just on your own unless you have a set of like Britannica encyclopedias, which I would love to have a set of those.
Might be a good idea with as rapid as information gets changed these days or withheld.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my
Definitely.
goodness. So I think, yeah, I think fasting is great in a lot of ways. Now,
Mhm.
what what is the science behind it boosting your metabolism? Because I've read some studies on that.
Um, well, I mean, they're like both keto and fasting can boost your metabolism. I mean, I think that keto is better at boosting your metabolism than fasting, because fasting has a tendency to um, have your body sort of shut down and slow way down, so it's using less energy. So the boosting of the metabolism happens after the fast. So during it, you're not burning, you're conserving energy, and you're using like glucose, like in the form of glycogens that's been built up in your muscles. So like people that eat a lot of protein, this has been one thing that I get asked a lot. Like, well, you just eat meat and cheese all the time, and I'm like, that's 100%
That's
not true.
more Atkins, right?
It is, or like a carnivore
Yeah,
and carnivore diet. And see, those things from my perspective don't really put you into keto. Like you can get into keto, but what happens is if you're eating too much protein, your body actually converts proteins to glycogens.
I
And so
know. I was reading that.
and then, I mean, then you've got a bunch of glucose basically stored up in your muscles, which is great if you're, if you're training, because you can use that, but it won't really speed up your metabolism too much. And so, from my perspective, the thing that does speed up your metabolism is keto, because you're using fat. So you're using fat to actually um, to sustain you. So you're using it as a source of energy. So your body is pretty amazing. So it can function on sugars like glucose, right? But
Yes.
once you're starved, like once your body is burned up all that glucose, then it starts going after the fat, and that's where your metabolism really starts to get cranking, because you'll start burning the fat that's in, that you've got stored in your body. If there's not enough glucose in your system for you to have energy. And what's amazing is the body only needs 4 tablespoons of glucose to function. That's it. That's what you have in your body,
I
four
know this from
tablespoons
my days at competition because you knew you only had to have a very minute amount for brain function. You needed
Yeah,
some, but
yeah.
like you did not need, if you were trying to get lean,
Hmm.
and you did not need all the sugar and the
Yeah.
glycogen, and the more you could cut out the glycogen, and
Hmm.
also I found increasing good fats really helped me, because
Oh
when I
yeah.
first early on started competing, it was more in the carnivore
Hmm.
Atkins type, like a whole lot of high protein,
Hmm.
low fat, low carb, and so your hair would be dry, your skin, um, and like you'd be kind of crabby, because let's just say it, bitchy, but because you weren't getting good fats, and you weren't
Hmm.
getting sugar, like you're
Yeah.
like I don't know, like drawn up like a prune or something. And so
Hmm.
um I love the whole idea that when I started adding good fats, all that went away.
Hmm.
And I find actually I could draw more energy off of the good fats than I could off of the sugar.
Yeah. I mean, fat provides you with a different type of energy, from my perspective. So when I look at um, like sugar will give you an instant burst of energy, and you'll metabolize it super quickly, right?
Yeah.
And it will elicit an insulin response.
You'll feel good. Like it'll be
You'll
like a
feel good,
dopamine hit.
but once it's gone, then that's all you have. Like it burns up pretty quickly. The thing with burning fat, right? The thing with using fat for energy is that it burns a lot slower and a lot more steady. So you'll get this steady sort of stream of energy that will take you through the entire day. And so, I mean, because the keto diet is 70% fat, 20% protein, and 10% carbs. And I would say that by and large, all my meals pretty much check all those boxes. I am trying to increase my protein a little bit just to sort of experiment with it
So
and see
say
what
your
happens.
percentage again for everybody.
Okay, so 70% fat, and I know that that seems so counterintuitive to a lot of
I
people. It's like,
know, I know some
what?
people are freaking right now.
Yeah, it's like that's a lot of fat. And it's like, yeah, it's a lot of fat. And also, I mean, because I shifted things up a lot too. So I used to eat like a lot of red meat, and a lot of cheese and a lot of heavy cream and stuff. And so I get blood drawn like every quarter. So I'll have a full
That's
panel.
so good for you.
It is because then you can kind of track what goes on. And so I started getting some inflammation markers showing up, and I think that a lot of that had to do with eating a lot of red meat and eating too many full fat dairy products. So actually, I've cut dairy out completely, which was super interesting because I was like a dairy addict, like half and half heavy cream. Um, which is, and since I haven't had it in a few months, when I do have it occasionally, it's like I have the worst sort of lactose intolerance that a human being should be allowed. Like it's like I'll have it and I'm like, that's the most amazing thing I've had. Followed like 30 minutes later, like, oh my God, I have to go to the bathroom and that. So
Well, the milk isn't the milk it used to be when it was unpasteurized and all
right.
the things. Anyway, I mean, it's just all this processing of everything takes
Hmm.
everything good out of it. And
Yeah.
I've definitely cut all my dairy for a very, very long time. But I
Hmm.
wanted to go back to what you said about donating blood because I
Hmm.
just finished the root cause protocol with Morley Robbins, which have you heard of him?
Hmm.
Okay, it's really amazing how you can get, especially as we get older, we get too much iron accumulation.
Yeah.
It might even say you're anemic, but you may have
Hmm.
it trapped in your tissues, your
Right.
cells, because you're not getting enough retinol.
Hmm.
So the retinol or the good fat from like animal products or whatever, or your butter actually even, um, getting the retinol is actually helping you get bioavailable copper, which keeps your iron flowing rather than getting trapped. But the reason why I'm going to the blood donation is because as we get older, when we're getting too much iron, it's very toxic to have too
Hmm.
much.
Yep.
So donating the blood is the best way to chelate that out.
Yes. I agree with you 100%. So probably, so I mean, I get my like a full panel done quarterly, but I also do therapeutic phlebotomy, which is I actually will have like a liter of blood drained out of my system probably every 6 months. And I started doing it when one of my blood tests came back with a 960 for ferritin. So ferritin is like a
Yeah.
is the indicator that you have a high amount of iron in your organs and stuff. And
Right.
so normally you should be in the 30 to 50 range, and I
Mm-hmm.
was 960.
Yep.
So, and I didn't really feel well either. Like I felt it's kind of hard to describe, but I felt like super weighed down and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like a fatigue,
yeah,
achy kind of joints and things.
I had definitely had joint pain, and almost immediately after giving, a liter of blood, I felt so much better.
Isn't it
And
crazy? Because I felt the same thing. I
mhm,
couldn't even believe it when I
yeah,
donated the blood. And then I'm like, now, wait a minute. Should I be feeling this much better already? And they said that's
yeah,
the way that it is. So, set up to do it every 3 months because
mhm,
I'm postmenopausal, which means um, I don't chelate out my blood like I used to
mhm,
having a menstrual cycle. And
yeah,
most women that are postmenopausal should be donating blood to get out
mhm.
that extra iron.
Yeah, because I mean, having extra iron is means it's toxic for your body. I mean, it's hard on your heart, it's hard on your kidneys, it's hard on your liver. But the first time that I gave a liter, which is a lot, the guy who took the blood is like, you probably want to lay here for a few minutes. And it's like, no, I don't. It's like, I want to get up and move because, I feel a lot lighter. I mean, that's like only
Did
a
they
couple
try to make you
pounds,
eat
but
all this sugar, right?
I won't eat sugar.
Did they try to make you eat it though, right
They suggested
after?
that I have a glass of orange juice, and for me, a glass of orange juice is a glass of sugar.
I didn't
So
want any of it. And they were like, no, you can't leave until you at least drink this much orange juice. And so I'm like, "Ah, all right. So I have the orange juice, but then they want me to eat cookies. And I'm like, I am not eating the cookies. She's like, that's okay. You don't have to. I was just seeing if I could eat
they're
them.
testing you. So
Yeah.
the interesting thing about the, so the, here's the interesting thing about the orange juice, right? So so if your blood sugar levels are way down, because
Yeah.
you gave blood,
Mm-hmm.
orange juice isn't going to have, it's going to be mostly fructose. So, and fructose isn't metabolized by your body as a sugar per se. So what happens is when you drink a bunch of juice, and you have a bunch of fructose go into your bloodstream, or actually into your digestive system, fructose is metabolized by your liver. Okay. And it's not metabolized to anything except for lipids or fats.
Hmm.
And so I was doing some research on this, and it was like somebody turned the lights on, because I was thinking, okay, so when I was reading this article, it said, look at a bear. Like when a bear is getting ready to go into hibernation, they're eating all of this overripe fruit, like all the fruit that's fallen on the ground. And the reason that they're eating that is
They
because
want to
that,
store fat up for the winter.
yes, and that is when the fruit is at its highest level of
Ooh.
fructose concentration, and so they eat it. Their liver immediately like turns it into lipid fats that are just start gathering on their body. So when they give you the orange juice, it's like that's not going to bring your blood sugar levels up at all.
I
It's
was
only
just
going to
like,
convert
why
to
are you giving me
lipids.
this? Why do you want me to drink
Yeah.
this? Why do you have these cookies? But you do definitely want to eat before you donate. Eat a good breakfast,
Hmm.
and then make sure you don't go without eating. I wouldn't say you should fast the day you're giving blood.
Probably not a good idea. And I would
Get
also
lightheaded.
highly recommend a lot of hydration.
Yeah. Well, oh, that makes it easier for you, first of all, to donate the blood,
Yes.
but you just feel a whole lot better. I feel like that's the thing that they should have listed the most was
Hmm.
the hydration.
Yeah,
So,
because if you're dehydrated, they're not going to be able to get the blood out of you. Just not.
so bad.
Yeah.
Moving back to
Yes.
ketosis,
Okay.
how do you know when you're in ketosis,
Hmm.
and how do you know when you're out of it?
Good question. So, depending on how committed you are to, data collection, when, if you're going to adopt a ketogenic lifestyle, you can use a lot of different things. There's urine strips. So if you pee on this strip, it will turn pink if it detects ketones in your urine. I think that they're not super accurate. You would be able to sort of tell if you're in keto. But there's blood tests out there. So there's a kit called Keto Mojo, and Keto Mojo you can actually use with your iPhone,
Oh,
and
that's
just,
perfect.
yeah, you just stick your finger, put a drop or two of blood on it, and it will tell you like what your blood sugar level is, along with what your ketones
And this is from
are.
your phone.
You can do it on your phone. Yeah. So the Keto Mojo plugs right into your phone, and you can do it that way. There's there's also, like, if you just go into a Walgreens or something like that, you can get a blood glucose monitor that also tests ketones. You would have to get the strips. You can get them on Amazon, but you can get the strips that test for ketones. Once you start doing it, you recognize the feeling when you're in keto. Um, you'll get a certain sort of taste in your mouth. It's kind of sweet, because ketones are similar to alcohol, I guess. So you'll be able to tell that way your energy level, how you feel. So once you recognize it, you probably don't need to use the strips unless you
They're
just
not
want to
always
keep keto.
accurate, the strips aren't.
The P strips aren't accurate. The blood glucose monitors are pretty
I
accurate.
would recommend just going with the monitor
Yeah.
or the, what was the other thing you said? The thing that plugged into your phone. What was it called
Oh, the
again?
Keto Mojo.
Oh, Keto Mojo. Yeah.
Keto Mojo. And I
Okay.
mean, it's really cool and it's pretty accurate. I think it's probably one of the most accurate test mechanisms that you can use
I
for
feel like you
keto.
need something that's accurate so that you, when you start doing it, you
Mhm.
actually know, like, yes,
And you
I'm,
can relate it
I've
back to,
arrived.
yeah, you can relate it back to how you feel. So like if you start tracking it and it's like, okay, so I feel this way when I'm like a 1.5, millimolars of ketones in my blood. So you can do a lot of data collection with it and then just sort of be connected with your body. Like this is how I feel when I'm 1.5. This is how I feel when I'm like a 2.0, 2.5, or 3. Like you'll start to understand your body will talk to you and you'll know, like, you'll have a pretty accurate, uh, sort of assessment of where you are as far as keto.
And so, like, can ketogenesis reverse diabetes? I mean, how do you reverse diabetes then?
Um, well, so I mean, diabetes starts with like insulin resistance, meaning that your body becomes resistant to insulin, meaning if
Mm-hmm.
you eat sugar like glucose, your body will secrete insulin to offset that, right? To manage your blood sugar levels. Because if your blood sugar levels are too high, I mean, you put yourself at risk for nerve damage and heart damage and, and organ damage. If your blood sugar level is too low, that's when you pass out, you get cranky, hangry.
Hangry. That's a good.
Yeah,
That's a
and
good word.
so um I totally forgot my point.
I carry snacks because I have a couple in my family that get hangry. So I'm
almonds
like,
almonds seem to be the best, I think, thing for me to stabilize blood sugar levels. But I mean, to be able to, manage that, I mean, can keto reverse diabetes? You can cure yourself of metabolic disease, um, with if you adopt a ketogenic lifestyle. It depends on the type of diabetes you have. If you have type 2 diabetes, that's generally the diabetes that you give yourself from overindulging in sugar and high glycemic carbohydrates. If it's type 1 diabetes, that's usually what you're born with.
right.
And
I don't think you can reverse that, right?
keto won't reverse it, but it'll help you manage it.
Yeah.
You can reverse type 2 diabetes with keto. I've seen a lot of people get off their meds for diabetes after practicing keto. So yeah, it can in some cases do that. I think keto has also been proven to be super effective for for seizures, for epilepsy. So, which is
Yes.
very, very interesting. There's a lot of indication that, that it also can help reverse neurodegenerative disease or at least hold it off.
Well, your
Like,
brain runs on essential fat, and if you're not
right,
taking it in, you're not getting it because you don't make it.
right. And to that point, uh, so I mean, a lot of doctors are referring to dementia and Alzheimer's and those type of neurodegenerative diseases as type 3 diabetes. Because what they have found is that if there's an overabundance of glucose in your system, it will prevent your brain from going into a flush. So you have like a cranial fluid that your brain sits in, and if it doesn't flush out, nightly when you sleep, you get a buildup of plaque. So, because your brain functions on peptides, and which are proteins, and when they get burned up, they leave, residue. And so, when you do a cerebral flush, it'll flush a lot of that out, but your body won't go into that if there's too much glucose in your system. So, what they found is that keto has actually helped reverse neurodegenerative disease.
I think you've taken me to a whole new realm today with the word cerebral
Cerebral
flush.
flush.
I'm sorry, I'm like
Yeah.
tripping over it.
It's one of my favorite things though. It's like it happens at night and it usually happens during REM. So if you're able to deplete your, your body of, of glucose, your brain will actually clean itself up. It'll flush out
That's
a lot
amazing.
of the, a lot of the ash and plaque that gets built up on your
That
brain.
must be why I've always felt when I was doing like the fasting, even
Hmm.
your brain is so clear, like the
Yeah.
clarity
Oh yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, and I love like the ketogenic sort of effect of, of additional energy and weight loss, but the real thing that I love about it, the thing that means the most to me is that, is the heightened level of awareness, and having that, really rich sort of mind body
And not having
connection.
all that feeling like your brain is in like a fog and you
Yeah,
can't function or think without, you know, so much caffeine on hand,
right.
right? Oh, this has been
100%.
so good today. Well, you've created some things to help us with our ketogenesis. Tell everybody about what you've created in the line of condiments.
Well, so I wrote the book 5 years ago, Gone Keto. And while I was writing the book, I was very committed to a ketogenic lifestyle. And what I found is that I couldn't have a lot of stuff. Like I couldn't have ketchup. I couldn't have barbecue sauce. I couldn't have teriyaki. I couldn't have like sweet chili sauce.
Took the
There was so
flavor.
many. Yeah, there was so many like sauces that I couldn't have because I started reading labels, like reading everything, like how much added
No,
sugar it
yeah.
has and what, like the ingredient statement, like number two, the number two ingredient, like in ketchup was sugar.
Right.
And so when I
Or
started
brown
thinking about,
sugar and barbecue sauce.
yeah, and so when I was looking at that, it's like in comparing like the nutritional facts panels, I was like, wow, it's interesting that ketchup has more sugar than soda. Like, like a can of Coke. And,
Oh my
but
gosh, that's horrible.
it is horrible. It's like putting ice cream on your barbecue. So I'm a food scientist, so I just went into the lab and I started making it. Like this
That's
is
cool.
ketchup, this is my recipe ketchup, this is my barbecue, and I started just ripping through all the different sauces. And so I selfishly was making them for myself, and then a friend of mine is like, "These are pretty good. You should try selling them." So we bottled them up, and they're on the Guy Gone Keto
I love
website.
that. Wow, that's
Thanks.
so cool. Did you make honey mustard?
I haven't.
Will
It's
you make
in
honey mustard? I have not found one good honey mustard.
it's in my queue. So I have like a bunch of different condiments that I want to add, and I'll probably honey mustard was on the top of the list, and some
There's
really
not a really
nice.
good one out there.
There's not,
Huh.
and for
Huh.
me, it would be pretty easy to formulate.
Yeah.
Um, the next round of products that we have coming out are actual cocktail mixers or
That's
mocktail
super
mixers.
cool.
Yeah, so we have like, and hopefully we'll get them out in the next quarter. We've got like margarita, mango margarita, watermelon margarita, cosmopolitan, lemon drop,
Oh, I'll
uh,
be your first customer.
and
I'm
they're all
not.
ke-
I'm not a big drinker, but COVID has changed. No, I'm just kidding.
and they're all keto. So, and you could either have it, with alcohol, or you could just have it, with soda. Like if you just mix it in with
I've
like some
actually made
LaCroix.
my own clean cocktails at home,
Oh,
and so it makes like for a really fun evening if you
yeah,
have people over because they like to kind of get involved in making the clean cocktail. And so I
yeah,
love the idea of having like a ready-made mix because
yeah,
after I made it, I could kind of visual because I'm a very creative. I make recipes out of, if you tell
nice,
me you like carrot cake, then I'll come up with like a healthy, I'll call it an unleaded version. It's no
nice.
sugar, no dairy and all those things. So I love the whole idea of having a mix for your clean cocktails, because they don't have to be so bad.
No, they don't. And it was, yeah, I love the formulations. We're just getting them totally finalized and we'll get them bottled up and they're 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 pretty good. A lot of love went into them.
So perfect. Well, this has been so awesome today.
Thanks,
What
Linda.
are 3 tips that you would like to leave with the audience on being on a keto diet?
Three tips. Number one, hydrate, because a lot of people confuse thirst with hunger. Um, Number two, network. You know, we are the sum of the 5 people closest to us. So if you are considering getting on taking the ketogenic path, make sure you surround yourself with people that are supportive and, maybe even want to be part of that. And number three is don't give up. So you might make a mistake. You might fall off the wagon. You might eat some French fries or some potato chips or bread or cake or whatever it is. But remember, it's like tomorrow is a new day. So you can start again every single day.
Perfect. Oh, this has been so good today. And I just want to thank you so much for coming on and creating all these delicious condiments that we can't wait to try. Where can everybody find you, your products, and reach you on social media?
Gone Keto across all social media. Um, and then you can go to the guygoneketo.com to the website and see recipes, some of the things we've got going on. If you want to see, that's my side hustle. If you want to see what I do during the daytime, you can go to iconfoods.com, and that's where we have all the ingredients and, interesting things on supply chain, if that's your jam. So, yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And
Thank
thanks
you.
everybody for listening to this episode of Sisterhood of Sweat. Bye everybody.